Hello everybody, it's Dr. Rick dropping in on you. Hope everybody is having an unbelievable start to your weekend. It's been blessed and challenging for me. I keep saying that, but that's where I'm at right now. I am blessed to be alive and working in my purpose and my passion. It has been challenging in some of the things that I've had to go through doing this year, but all in all, I'm grateful. Look, if you believe in the work we're doing, you know the routine. Show some love, show some support. That needs to be a focus, to be honest. We really need to get better at supporting the things that actually serve us. It's something we are horrible at, but I don't want to get into it in depth. You see the pre-video introductions and all that stuff. You know what we do. So if you believe in what we do, show some love, show some support, get behind it. Look, when I talked about the outrage people were showing because of the release of Brittany Griner, I believe it was yesterday. I did it, yeah. And I talked about it because I'm looking at how upset people are that she got released and a Marine didn't get released, and there's a lot going on with that is not being shown on the surface. One of the things that we've got to do a better job is understand when we're being played by the media. The media is ultimately sanctioned by the powerful, the governments, the wealthy elite. Those are the ones who determine what you get on the media. You're never really getting the true story. And now we've got it where it's not even being reported factually. It's being reported on a spin and an angle depending upon the political and social viewpoints of the upper echelons of that particular media outlet. So you know you're going to get conservative with one, you're going to get liberal with another, you're going to get mainstream independent with some, and all of that. And what we have done at alt-black media and alt-black news is create a place where we're bringing the truth, and we're bringing it from the perspective and the viewpoints and paradigms of blacks. You need to pay attention to that. We've been doing that for a while. That's where you need to focus in new black media. Alt-black media is an organization that I'm a part of. That is the brainchild of Neo Dior. And we have come a long way. She is an unbelievably brilliant mind, and we protect her at all costs. But back to what I'm talking about here, because that's a whole nother thing. We've got to do a better job because we get the media feed based off of what they want us to see. And it's not just black people it's happening to. Everybody's getting misled. Everybody's fed what they want. Whatever response, reaction, behavior they want, there is something they can do in the media. There's a way they can paint it. There are things they can do, and there's no end to what they're going to, all the way back to 9/11 and way back before then. But what I want to get at is it's so much more than a Marine being captured. That wasn't just a Marine who got captured, and there's a lot going on with that. And you got to understand PR stunts when you see them. This wasn't about Brittany Griner. She just got caught in the middle of it. She was the biggest name that Russia can get a hold to, and she was the biggest pawn that Biden's administration could play with. And that's what that was about. That was something that we got caught up in that was on a whole nother pay grade, and a whole bunch of other stuff going on that I'm not going to even attempt to try to explain right now. But do your research. Go out and understand. Learn. I've been watching this go down for so long that it doesn't even shock me. I never sit up and think what I'm being told is exactly what's going on. I'm always looking and searching and finding. There's so much we're finding out about things we were told 2 years ago that's coming back to bite a lot of people that thought they were doing the right thing in the ass. And obviously I'm not going to talk about that in specificity because they love clamping people on these platforms. But with all of that being said, I came on and said, while we are all upset about that, what we aren't looking at is black femicide, the killing of black women. And it's a shame that talking about defending black women has to be met with a disclaimer that it's not discrediting the issues and sufferings and struggles that black men have. It's a shame that we have to do that, but that's where we are. We have allowed them to put us in a vice that when you defend one, it's automatically assumed you're attacking the other. No, I'm attacking a behavior. And my thing is, when I talk about femicide, I went just as hard after, what's her name, Dejanay or whatever, that killed Shaquella Robinson. I went just as hard, and I went after the feminists who constantly talk about women's rights but didn't have the same smoke for Dejanay and the other women that killed this young girl as they had if it would have been a black man. My thing is, black women need to be safe, not only from black men and other men, but they need to be safe from other black women. I think that the safety of our women has to be a priority in our community. And I talked about that, and someone brought up the 10-year-old boy who killed his mom behind a video game, and asked me to address that because it fell in line with the same thing. You can't magically make a man appear. A man is developed and built. A man that's able to withstand emotional pressure, a man that's able to withstand rejection, a man that's able to balance his emotions and manage his strengths and his force and his natural testosterone-driven aggression. It takes developing. It doesn't just happen. So it comes through starting with them before they ever reach puberty, before testosterone becomes an influence in how they move and their reactions, their ability to cause more damage. It's got to be something. So when we talk about African American adolescent and young adult male violence, we're not just simply talking about some kids being born evil. And the reason I decided to actually honor this person's request and talk about this is because there's this idea that, you know, some kids are just born evil, and we have to be real careful when we say that. Because what happens is, that's the thing they're trying to put, that black kids are more likely to be born with a violent gene. Now, epigenetics tells me that there are epigenetic tags that allow the passing down of trauma by way of genetic expression. We know that. But to say a kid is born violent is not a true explanation and understanding of epigenetics and how all that stuff works. And I've written on this extensively in multiple books, in academic papers, and so much more. So we're not just talking about that. But what we got to understand is there are people who want to make the argument that blacks are naturally just inherently more violent, and that's not the case. Situations and circumstances, from poverty to lack to a number of other issues, will influence the proclivity to violence. We know that. And it's not anything associated with race. It is driven primarily by status. Now, because our race happens to fit more in one statistical category of status, more towards the poverty line than the wealth line, then we are going to have more of us who behave a certain way that's considered antisocial. So we have to understand that. It doesn't make it it doesn't offer an excuse, but it gives an understanding. Now, there's this 10-year-old kid who asked his mom for a video game for his PlayStation. I believe it was PlayStation. And the mom said, no, I'm not going to get it. And he's a kid. His dad died when he was like 2 or 3 years old. And so his mom sort of started coddling him as a response to his dad passing away. And so he hasn't had a lot of structure. He hasn't had a lot of manhood modeled for him. He doesn't have someone to keep him in line, and she hasn't done it because she's dealing with her grief and coddling him in the process in her way of protecting him. And she was creating something that she did not realize. At the same time that this is happening, he's being exposed to games that desensitize killing. You kill a person, game over. You start a game over again and you get to play again. And so you've got that going on. You got the desensitization. You got steady flows of violence coming through his game, coming through his phone, and the idea and understanding of consequence and depth of what's going on just simply isn't there. Now, this kid, from what I was able to gather, and I looked into it significantly, is a problem. He didn't just all of a sudden go off the edge. He's been a problem to the point that nobody in the family wanted to keep him. So we know that. But again, this was created. The mom trying to make up for the loss of the dad, overcompensated, which often happens with women. Women are designed to flow in a certain structure. When we put them in a position where they have to flow in veins that we should be flowing in, it takes them off kilter. And in some way or another, there's going to be things that are simply missed. We were meant to operate as a unit. We were meant to operate together. And that's what we don't see, is us being able to have the masculine energy of the man, the feminine energy of the woman come together and create a synergy to where we are effectively socializing our children, male and female. And so what we end up with is big gaps in development. And so whatever happened with this kid, he gets mad because she says he can't have the game. She's in the basement washing. He goes, grabs her keys. She has the key to the gun safe on her regular key ring. Well, he knows this. He's paid attention. He knows the routine. He's watched her. So he goes and gets the keys, opens the gun safe, gets the gun, goes downstairs. When she looks up, he's pointing the gun at her. And she says, "What are you going to do with that?" And he shot her. That would be enough. But it's not the end of the story. This kid then turns around, goes upstairs, goes in her purse, gets her credit card, gets on the computer, and orders the game. Now, at some point, police will call, they figure out what's going on. He tells them he was playing with the gun, it was an accident, and went off. Well, his aunt has to pick him up. Now remember, he's ordered this game. His aunt has to pick him up from somewhere, and they're on the way to their grandmom's house. And what I'm gathering is he actually ordered the game and had it set. He was aware enough to realize he probably wasn't going to be at home because his mom was dead, so he was probably going to be at his grandma's. So he ordered the game and had the game delivered to the house. Now, he's told the police it was an accident, but he's in the car driving home with his mom, and he, for whatever reason, feels the need to tell his auntie that he did it on purpose because she wouldn't get the game. And so she calls home to tell her mom, "You need to have the police there waiting. They need to come pick him up." And so when he gets in the house, the first thing he asks is, "Has my game come yet?" There's a lot to unpack with that. If you don't get it, there's a lot to unpack with that. The reason and the rationale tells you there's a lot going on. I'm not going to get into that. What I am going to tell you is the absence of manhood played a role. I'm not saying it's to blame. I'm not saying that's the only thing. I'm not saying that's called. But what I don't want, and the reason I addressed it, is because there was a comment on the video where the person asked me to address this, saying that some kids are just born killers. And the truth is, less than 1% of the population is born a psychopath. Now, that's a person that has no conscience, has no feeling, no emotions, and is totally self-serving, and they can be killers. Not every psychopath is a killer. So to say someone is a born killer is a highly inflamed overstatement and void of true factual backing. But born in the right environment to create killers, we have a lot of kids that are born in environments where they're more likely to become violent because of the environment. Drug use is a contributor. Urban hassle is a contributor. Witnessing violence is a contributor. The feeling of being disrespected is a contributor. These are contributors that contribute to African-American adolescent and young adult male violence. While we cannot totally eradicate this type of violence, what we can do is mitigate it. We can reduce the occurrence and the frequency and the intensity of the violence. We can do that. It's proven. I've been doing it for years. I've just been doing it on a small scale based on what I'm capable of doing. We need to have a universal rite of passage program. Sounds stupid, and man, a rite of passage, how is this? The rite of passage is a part of socialization. Every other group has it. You learn what's expected of you in a rite of passage. You learn what you're capable of in a rite of passage. You learn what's possible in a rite of passage. You gain an understanding of your responsibility to your community, to your home, to your children, to your wife, in socialization. Normally socialization goes along in the house, but in order for a young male to be properly socialized, he has to have exposure to a man. If there's no man in the house, he's at a deficit already. And he's also at a disadvantage in that his vast exposure is going to be the females. There are going to be more female teachers at school in positions of authority. So he's going to get a lot of authoritative behavior around him of women telling him what to do will be a natural resistance of a male. That's why fathers need to take over at a certain age in disciplining young males. Our women shouldn't be disciplining our boys after 6 or 7 years old. Number one, it teaches them how to be dominated by a woman. It teaches them the woman makes the decision, and it makes them angry and hostile towards women. Now, they'll have a great deal of respect for mom in many instances, but they will not like women because they see someone who wants to control them, even in the most docile woman. We have to be careful of what we're doing when we move outside of the construct of what's naturally meant to happen. And when you have 1.5 million black men missing, then you got to say, how are we filling that gap? And if you're not filling that gap, then you're going to be in a situation where there are going to be deficits. There are going to be things missed. There's simply going to be some things that can't be accounted for. And it's going to show up in behavior. It's going to show up in results. It's going to show up in ineffectiveness. And that's on us. We can sit up and we can talk about it. We can sit up and we can complain. But at the end of the day, if we don't take action, if we don't do something, if we don't change the dynamic, if we don't find a systematic way to account for the 1.5 million men that are missing, if we don't come up with a systematic way to account for the 70+% single parent homes, where most of those single parents are mothers, meaning that there's not even if the father is active, he's not in the home. He's the role that a man naturally takes in the home isn't being filled by a man. That creates an off dynamic. That creates a dynamic that perpetuates itself far longer than the child is a child. And we have to understand a lot of the dysfunction that we're experiencing right now is because of the disruption of that nucleus. And we have to find a way to create at least an artificial connection to what's supposed to be until we can reblend and over generations rebuild and replace and restore the black family. If we don't restore the black family, we cannot have black power. You can say what you want to. If we don't restore the black family, and that begins with black marriage, I'm sorry, I hate to tell you this, you can say what you want to say, but you cannot take a system that's meant to socialize children in a particular environment, say we're going to get rid of that environment, we're going to get rid of that construct, we're going to get rid of that idea, and expect somehow that these children are still going to be given the things that they need and be able to be pro-social and high performers in life, when the very nature of how they become that has been disrupted and discarded. So that's my take on it. I could talk about it all day long. Like I said, I've put hours and hours, thousands of hours actually, into researching it, and thousands more writing on it, lecturing on it. I'll be talking on it again in February. I was approached today by a client who was a Delta, and they are having a conference on generational trauma. So I'll be talking, I'll be speaking at that. I'll be the keynote speaker at that. So look, hey, we've got work to do. We can sit around and pretend, or we can actually get involved and take action. There's no excuse for not taking action. None. We got to stop making excuses. We need to get in and make something happen. Again, if you believe in the work that I'm doing, in my research, in my programs, in working with young black males, working with young black girls, in our programs that deal with them, all of that, if you believe in it, go to the description box and follow the instructions on donating and giving. That's the way we're going to get this done. Find people who have an expertise in the areas that we're struggling in and get behind them to champion solutions. You know, there are people who are exceptional and remarkable in areas that we're struggling in, and they are trying to do it, but they're struggling because we only get behind the shiny thing. We blew $100 million on Black Lives Matter. They living in nice houses and ain't jack been done about black men dying in the street or black men killing people in the street. And it is what it is, because we've got to be careful. Look for consistency. Look for how long somebody's been doing. And like I said, this isn't just about me. This is about all of my brothers and sisters that I know that are out there grassrooting it and beating the ground and boots on the ground and giving everything they've got with very minimal support. And then we ask why a 10-year-old blows his mom's brains out. We ask why a 23-year-old man kills his girlfriend, her sister, her mother, and her 4-year-old niece because he's asked to leave the house. We're not going to ask why it's not his house. We're not going to ask why the dynamic is off in the first place. We're not going to put in what we need to put in. I'm telling you, there's work to be done. You can't keep sitting up whining about a behavior. And the problem is we're all going to be consumed by it eventually. It's going to be nowhere to go, nowhere to run, and it's going to consume us. We have to take action. On that note, look, I'm going to get ready to get out of here. It's Friday. I need to get me a cigar. I need to relax. I haven't talked a lot about what I've gone through. And I've continued to work. I've continued to do what I do. But this has been an ass-kicking year for me. But I find a way to smile. I find a way to get the job done. I find a way to wake up every morning and be grateful. But I'm going to get in here and relax and be around some brothers that, show love, give love, receive love. And I'm telling you, the men I'm around, this whole idea that there are no good black men, bullshit. Number one is, I'm not going to be around no bullshit dude. I'm not going to be around a dude that's not loving on his wife, that's cheating on his wife, that's beating on his wife, that's not loving on his kids. I'm not going to be around that dude. And I'm telling you, these dudes know I call them on bull crap. So if it is a guy doing it, he's definitely not going to talk about it in front of it. But these guys, man, we come up here, we have fun. And we share. And these are professional dudes, too. These are dudes with jobs and businesses. So that idea, I walk into it almost every day with these guys, and I see guys on their killer, and they doing that thing, and they're sitting around, and I have to remind them, complaining about women. Oh, there are good women. The problem is everybody's convinced that the other one doesn't exist. They're the enemy. So we look for what's wrong with people instead of looking for what's right. And we dismiss people and throw people away. Here's this thing that's really on my spirit, and I'm gonna say this and then I'll be done. We always talk about fumbling the bag, and as a person who has dealt with money and had a great deal of success with money, most of my adult life, I've had some rough patches, but the bag, even if you fumble it, if you know how to get money, you can fumble a bag, you'll get money. Where I'm concerned is how easily we fumble people. People who care about us, people who love on us, people who support us, people who big up us, people who speak power and life into us, people who do, we fumble them. We don't give them the same. We got value for the bag. Everybody's trying to hold on to the bag. Everybody's trying to get the bag. The bag, the bag, the bag. And we've lost our humanity. We're fumbling the preciousness of human love, human concern, human engagement. We need to deal with that as well. All of this is coming from these negative forces that are bombarding us, and we don't have the social collective wherewithal to pull together and guard our gates. And you don't think your children are being targeted? Better wake up. On that note, look, I'm out of here. Thank you guys for giving me 26 minutes of your time, and I am off.